dumbest of the dumb. You're the absolute dumbest of the dumb. Let's say it with our new age voice, kids. You're the dumbest of the dumb. And therefore it makes it true. You don't know anything about the occult. You don't know anything about internal work upon yourselves. You can't do shadow work because you're too ignorant. And you can't say that you're wrong. You know? There you go, kids. There's your horn. There's your car waiting for you. Get in the clown car like the good little clowns that you are. Play your music in the clown car. Get that music on. There you go. There's your song, kiddos. Did you like your song? Right? We can do it like that, and then there's nobody that complains. Because all that matters is the tone something is set in. Yay! We got the tone right. We told the little shit know-nothings in the right tone. So everybody claps for us. This is the childishness of where we're at. This is the childishness of where you guys are at. And it's pathetic. It's really, really, really fucking pathetic. It really is. It's sad that this is where they're at this far into the whole slavery system. When I've been telling you guys how it really works for 17 goddamn years. And you don't want to know shit because you're too arrogant and you're Satanists deep inside your mindset. You have a satanic mindset. You're living on the peak of Mount Stupid because you can't say the thing that will get you off of Mount Stupid, throw you very temporarily into the Valley of Despair. If you're a little bit of a driven autodidactic learner, you'll have to stay there for only a little while instead of a long time, and then really make the journey toward real enlightenment, real knowledge, real competency. But most of you will never do it because you're low-life loser children, and you want to stay low-life loser children. You don't want to grow up into knowledgeable, wise, competent, responsible adults because that's death to your bullshit identity that you've built up for yourself and you're proud of, and it's nothing you should be proud of, losers. So that explains it with a little kindergarten-like pictorial graph. Okay? I've been waiting on the plateau of sustainability for you losers since the year 2007, and arguably even a few years before that, but totally confidently standing upon that plateau of sustainability for at least 17 years now, since 2007. I was working my way up that slope of enlightenment from the year 2002, and only really in that Valley of Despair for about maybe a year or two. 2000, 2001, that's about it. Before, confidently I can say before that, I was on Mount Stupid with you when I was in the satanic mindset. It took me a long time to work myself out of that mindset, but I did. With hard shadow work, with no trying to absolve myself of the personal responsibility for getting my mind out of that state, and no excuses being made for having fallen for it. See, this is where most of you guys are at. You want to make excuses for why you remain as stupid as you do, and then you want to point the finger at the person telling you you're still stupid, delivering the message of truth that you need to hear. But you're too satanically minded. I know I'm in a place of confident knowing you guys are going to stay in Mount Stupid. It's like you're literally seeing the sun start to peak up above the horizon in the morning, and you could say with confidence a few hours later the whole disk of the sun is going to be visible as long as there aren't any clouds in the sky. It's like I know the direction that this is headed. I don't think I know. I know. And right now, there are zero signs whatsoever that the community of people who say they want freedom, who pay lip service to the term freedom, and are so dumb they couldn't spell the word, but yet they pay lip service to it and say, oh yeah, I want to be free, I want true freedom, I don't want tyranny. You guys couldn't spell the word fucking freedom. You couldn't fucking spell it correctly, let alone know what drives and governs the dynamic of freedom. You haven't begun moving away from the peak of Mount Stupid. You're there, you've set up your tent. Hell, you've built a log cabin. You haven't set your tent up there. You built a beautiful log cabin with flowing water and, with sanitation, with electricity. You got an internet connection there, and you're perfectly comfortable living up on the peak of Mount Stupid. And I see no signs of that changing. I'm sorry. I see how arrogant you are. I see how purely satanically minded you are. Ladies and gentlemen, don't accuse Mark Passio of being possessed. You guys are possessed. You're possessed by ignorance. You're possessed by apathy. You're possessed by laziness. You're possessed by incompetence. You're possessed by a lack of knowledge. You're possessed by a lack of wisdom. That's what demonic possession is. You're in the satanic mindset that keeps you on the summit of Mount Stupid. While I've been screaming at you from the other side of the valley on the plateau of sustainability and the plateau of wisdom, trying to tell you, you guys don't know what you need to know yet. You need to come over here and join me where we can actually really make a true difference. And you know what I've gotten in 17 years? Here's what I've gotten. Two things. I've gotten, I'll be willing to listen to you a tiny little bit, not entirely, but I can invest maybe a tiny little bit of my time, and it's really only for intellectual curiosity's sake to just hear what you have to say and see, compare and contrast it with some other things that I've heard. And at the very, very, very best, somebody comes off Mount Stupid and they land in the Valley of Despair and they stay there. That's the best case scenario that I've ever seen. But what most people do is they'll only listen to try to have a confirmation bias of their existing stupidity so that they can say, no, you're wrong, Mark, even though I'm the expert in this dynamic and they're the know-nothing. They just want to listen so they can fight and say, no, I'm correct, and I'm going to continuously reconfirm my idiocy bias. When you don't know shit, boys and girls, little boys and little girls of complete ignorance. And I am not the cock that's ever going to be told some little snot-nosed punk shit for brains is telling me, the expert in my field of endeavor, who has the answer right, that I'm the one who's wrong and they're the one who are right. I'll fight you tooth and nail to the bitter fucking end. And we can bump ego to ego to ego to ego to ego all day long. Everything I've said is still true and correct. What you guys are talking about is bullshit and nonsense, and you're in a satanic mindset and you're determined to stay there because you're an undriven loser who takes pride in being a lowlife. And we can say it to you with our nice new age shit grin. I'll play some slide whistle for you. We can sing it. We can make a song about it. You're a satanic, arrogant, know-nothing loser. Here it is. You're a satanic, know-nothing loser. There's your song. That's about what you deserve. That's what you get, and it's what you deserve. Okay? We can make all kinds of songs like Go Team Humanity, go. Whoa, 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 whoa. Go Team Humanity, go. Whoa, 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 whoa. Earth's flat, eat meat. Earth's flat, eat meat. Earth's flat, eat meat. I'm a retard, smell my feet. I mean, that's your song. That's humanity's song. Let's be realistic. That's the song Team Humanity gets, and that's the song they deserve. So, stay on the peak of Mount Stupid and reap the horror that you willfully and rightly deserve. Or join some of the people who actually figured it out on the plateau of enlightenment, the plateau of wisdom, the plateau of sustainability for the rest of the human race. And I have zero confidence that you guys will make that journey and make it there. I just don't. I'm sorry. Prove me wrong if you dare to take that up as a challenge. You prove me wrong. Don't complain about what Mark Passio says. I've spoken the truth. I've spoken it in a calm way. I've spoken it in a forceful way. I've spoken it in a nasty way. I've spoken it in a angry way. I've spoken it in a comical way. I've spoken it in every way that it needs to be spoken, can be spoken, whatever. It's still true. What I've said is still true. It's been true from the beginning. I've been on point since the beginning of my work, explaining to people what was coming, how to avert it, how to avoid it. They didn't listen. They remain in their satanic mindset of arrogance and ignorance, and they got what's coming to them, and that's what will continue to happen, because there's nothing broken with the universal justice machine. Zero broken with that. The worldwide natural law justice machine, the universal natural law justice machine that is all of creation, is working perfectly. It is humanity that is fucked up and broken, and in a satanic mindset which will not allow them to admit that they were wrong and then learn the true governing dynamics of human freedom. The problem does not lie with either the universe or Mark Passio. The problem lies with the people living on the summit of Mount Stupid, and they are the full expression of the Dunning-Kruger effect. And we'll continue to go over that each week until the end of the series, which is in 2 weeks from now. So I'll keep repeating the Dunning-Kruger effect with possibly different graphics each week before I finish my presentation slides. Let's jump back into Unholy Feminine, Extended and Revisited. Where we left off last week was talking about men's activist and men's rights groups, MGTOW and MRA, men going their own way, and men's rights activists. What I describe them as groups that are lacking the causal factors and lacking the solutions, which is what we're going to begin talking about. Men's movements like MGTOW, men going their own way, often portray women as inherently evil, flawed by their nature, and solely responsible for the downfall of humankind. None of these things are true. And people would think, oh, Mark, you've been saying all these bad things about how women are affected by mind control and satanic social engineering for the last, 15 weeks. How could you say those things aren't true? Because they aren't. Because it's not the truth that women are inherently evil. It's that they are conditioned into a mindset of Satanism by the social engineers and dark occultists. It is all conditioning. It is not nature. And this is going to lead into the dynamic I need to hammer on more and more and more. What is human nature? Almost no one knows what human nature is, and that could be graphed in the Dunning-Kruger graph. You could graph the knowledge of what human nature actually is. Almost no one has that knowledge. There's a tiny, tiny few people over on the right, on the plateau of wisdom, and almost everybody who thinks they know what human nature is, or what it has anything to do with, is living at the peak of Mount Stupid on the left. So, it is, if you understand what human nature is, no, women are not evil inherently. They are not flawed by their nature, nor is anyone. And they are not solely responsible for the fall of humanity. All human beings share in that responsibility. MGTOW often push an erroneous and divisive belief that the current condition of the female mindset, the conditioned female mindset, is the result of, quote, female nature, when in fact this mindset is a product of complex, lifelong social engineering that affects the vast majority of women, and most certainly is not the, quote, nature of the female of our species. And folks, everybody should be hearing the information on this slide as tremendously good news. It doesn't mean that it's permanently broken. It means people have to do the internal work to get their mind out of the conditioned worldview that it is currently possessed by. It's a form of possession where it has you. Your worldview and your mindset has you. You don't have a mindset and a worldview. Your mindset and your worldview has you. It possesses you. It owns you. You can't get out of it. You can't get away from it. That's why it's highly appropriate I'll be ending What on Earth is Happening, at least for the time being, on the 23rd of June, because the number 23 is occultically, in occult numerology, the number that represents getting out of what has previously possessed or owned you. It's the number that represents escape from mental prison. Not escape from a physical place, escape from the prison of the mind. To do the 23 skidoo, which meant in the early part of the 20th century to get out while the getting was good. Get out while you still had a chance to get out before everything constricted around you, and then you're completely trapped where you're at and you can't get out. And it doesn't mean escape to the wilderness, I'm going to grow my own food up on the mountaintop, and the government will never get me up there, and fuck everybody in all the cities. See, another thing I've said that people don't understand, I've never said don't grow your own food. I've never said don't go live where you want to live in as rural of a community as you want to live. I've said that if you're running from teaching people, and those are the reasons you want to go live a rural lifestyle, and you want to just be away from people, and you don't want to communicate the truth to anyone because you're a selfish, arrogant prick that just wants to run away and have their comfort while everybody else gets fucked. And you're still being fucked yourself. You're not really winning at anything. You're playing to lose. That makes you a satanically minded asshole loser who's playing to lose the game of let's have freedom for humanity or let's have tyranny for humanity. You're losing that game. And this is what people can't hear. You know what they'll translate into it? Things that I've never said. Mark says that city people are better people than country people. No, Dunning-Kruger, living at the peak of Mount Stupid loser. I've never said that, dumb fuck. That's what you thought because you're a dumb fuck. And you can't hear what somebody has actually said, and you project your own bullshit and your own feelings onto the actual truth of what was said because you have no discernment capabilities because you're a lazy shit ape. You see? And therefore, that now magically becomes true and no one fights me on it because we made a little song about it. There's the second verse. I mean, there's really, you know what? The real answer is these people aren't even really insulted. The people who say the things like this, like, listen to what Mark just said. He said that all people living in the rural areas are evil, and all the people that live in the cities are angelic creatures. Never said anything of the kind, moron. I said, if you want to run away and escape is your plan. You know, the big escape plan. I'm going to go live in the wilderness. I'm going to go not have any interaction with anybody as far as the eye can see. I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to try to teach anybody. I'm just going to fucking go grow my own food out in the middle of nowhere where nobody can find me. You're a Satanist. That's what I said. That means you don't care about the rest of humanity, and that's what a Satanist is. That means you don't have agape love. All you have is selfish care for yourself. That's not love at all. That's arrogant, ignorant, bullshit Satanism. And that's where most people are at in this movement. That's their goal, is to escape, not to actually educate, to transform humanity from an ignorant, arrogant, apathetic species into a knowledgeable, responsible species that has true wisdom. You're not interested in that job because you know how fucking difficult that work is. I've explained to you under no uncertain terms how significantly difficult that work is. But you won't take up that banner, and you won't do the hard work, and you won't put skin in the game. Instead, you want to run away, and that's what makes you a piece of trash. Hear what I said, not what your dumb, dullard brain is telling you that I said. What your dumb, dullard brain is telling you that I said is different than what I actually said, dumb, dullard brain. And again, I can say it nastily, I could say it calmly, I could say it screaming, I could say it through a megaphone, I could whisper it, I could make a comedy show routine about it. It's still true. No matter how you slice it or what tonality it comes out to you in. If you can't hear it in a certain tone or way, the problem is not the person who just spoke the truth to you. The problem is you. You're under mind control, dumbass. Can't you see it? That's what mind control is a person telling you social engineers have put you under this spell since the day you got crapped out of your mother's snatch. And they told you, as long as somebody's saying it with a sweet, pleasing tone and they're in a nice three-piece suit and tie, then it's true. Because that's what our loser, shit-for-brains talking heads vomited out at you, but they did it with this voice and a nice big shit-eating smile on their face. And then you swallowed it with a hose and funnel. And if you don't understand what that means, it means you take a funnel and you jam it down your throat, but the big end is still hanging out your mouth so you don't get any spillover. And then you jam the hose in there all the way down to your ass, and you turn that fucker on full blast and you eat all that shit. You just fill yourself up with that shit hose. And that's what you guys did. And you still believe it. You still think that if something's said meanly to you or it's said screaming, that it can't be true. And all it's proven is that I'm correct and I'm true in what I'm saying, is you've always been under mind control and you still are. And you need to do the 23 skidoo, and you need to get the fuck out while the getting's good, morons. And you need to get out of mind control, and you need to realize it doesn't matter how something is ever said or presented. The only thing that matters is whether it is factually and morally correct or not. That's the sign of being a cosmic adult, responsible adult grown-up, instead of a fucking child inside of a grown-up's body who says, that can't be true if it was not said in a nice, pleasing, flowery fucking voice. Grow the fuck up. Wake the fuck up all the way. You do that through knowledge. You don't do that through your feelings. You don't do that through emotions alone. Emotions are involved in that process, but they are not the totality of it. You need actual knowledge of how the laws of reality actually work. And you're not going to be taught them in school. You're not going to be taught them in your fucking loser churches that are fake bullshit religions. You're not going to be taught them by government. You're not going to be taught them by the media. You're not going to be taught them on the television, in the newspapers, in magazines, or in any other mainstream form of media. You're going to have to go to real tomes of wisdom and read and read and read and read. Go to real lectures by truly knowledgeable people and listen and listen and listen and listen. And most of you will never do that because you're stuck in an attitude of Satanism, just like these guys are, just like the MGTOW and MRA people are. Your mindset's Satanism. You haven't developed any true wisdom. You're still on the peak of Mount Stupid. Or better yet, you're at the very bottom of the peak in the valley of despair. You've maybe learned a little bit more than the average dolt, but then you stay in the valley of despair and then want to blame it on human nature because you haven't come into real occult knowledge and wisdom. And you don't know what human nature is, and you think you do, and you're wrong. You're extremely wrong. And you'll fight tooth and nail to the death that you're right, and the people who really know what human nature is, which is someone like me who's trying to act as a liberating influencer for you, and who also knows what real human nature is, are your enslavers who are keeping you in the valley of despair and keeping you in total abject tyranny and enslavement. They know what human nature really is, but you don't, dumbass. So, let's move on. Men's reaction movements, such as MGTOW and MRA, men's rights activism, like many other activist groups, will often correctly analyze the symptoms of the problem, but do not have an accurate understanding of the causal factors of the problem. And therefore, because they don't understand the causal factors, they also lack any true, empowering, long-term solution to the problem, because you can only solve a problem once you understand its genuine causal factors. And they know nothing about Satanism. They know nothing about the dark occult. They know nothing about social conditioning. They know nothing about social engineering. They want to believe it's some biological, Newtonian, and Darwinian bullshit, because they're working with ancient, disproven, materialism-based pseudoscience. And they, as the dude said to the Big Lebowski, you're just not privy to the new shit, man. That's how it really works, cosmic children. We could play another slide whistle song if you prefer, but it remains true that you losers in all of these movements are just not privy to the new shit, man. You're the dumbass Big Lebowski, and the real Lebowski, the dude, is trying to tell you that you're not privy to the new shit. You haven't studied the new biological sciences and the epigenetic sciences. You're stuck in materialism. You're stuck in bullshit that was fed to you by the Bavarian Illuminati and other occult organizations. You're fed to you. They're feeding you complete Newtonian bullshit and Darwinian bullshit, and neither of them are correct. You're stuck in materialism, and that's why you want to believe this bullshit version of human nature by which it's all driven by genes, and that women have a certain nature from birth and men have a certain nature from birth. And it's all socially conditioned bullshit. You were programmed by the dark occult. You were given that information by hundreds of different sects of social engineers and dark occultists. You were given that information by political think tanks. You were given it by the bullshit education system. You were given it by your churches. You were given it by your teachers. You were given it by your imbecile parents. And it's all nonsense. It's all incorrect. It's all wrong. It all leads to wrong action. It all leads to the wrong understanding. It all leads to not correctly perceiving the causal factors of what put the vast majority of modern conditioned women's mindsets into this level of consciousness. Or, as should properly be said, this level of unconsciousness. But you're still in a level of unconsciousness, even though you can still see modern conditioned women's level of unconsciousness. Don't think it means that you're any more enlightened. And then their solutions are, let's drop out of society. Just like the solutions of the people who know how hard it is to morally educate people in the great work effort. And then they just want to say, let's drop out of society, move to the wilderness, grow our own food, and hide till the day we die. You're little children trying to escape a problem that you need to actually take responsibility to truly solve and heal. And you don't want to do that because that's too hard, and you want to live an easy, comfortable lifestyle as a cosmic child. Loser. See, we can just say it as long as there's a smile and a nice tone. That's all. And it completely changes its veracity. It completely makes it true when it was false. If I went, loser, it's false, kids. That's fake. I mean, nobody can believe that they're actually losing and that they're actually epitomizing everything it is to play to lose and be a loser. If you scream it like that in a deep, manly voice, my God, that makes it untrue. But if I say it like this, you're playing to lose and you're a loser as such because you're not understanding the causal factors, and that's going to make you lose every time. Then suddenly we don't have to yell back at Mark because the tone is everything and the information is nothing. I have no regard for truth. I only have regard for how something is said to me because I'm a shit in the diapers little baby loser. Don't you know that? We'll resend the email memo. Okay? So, a quote-unquote solution, which is not a real solution, often presented by many in these reactionary movements, is for men to completely, quote, drop out of human society, or to no longer have any interaction whatsoever with women unless they are receiving some sort of overt benefit for the interaction, like sex or something of that nature. Those within these movements should not expect any improvement whatsoever in the conditions which they analyze until the main causal factor of social engineering or mind control, which is directed by the occult, by Satanism, by very high-level social engineer think tank organizations, is fully recognized and addressed. They don't have that knowledge. I lurk in probably combined over 75 women's forums and men's forums over the years, seeing what these two complete oppositional dynamics that are complete dynamics of social engineering and polarization dialectics. They're polarizing dialectics that just continue to fuel the fire of the gender war. I lurk in these forums, and here I never post. I just listen. This is how one of the ways that I get where is consciousness at. And you could read for thousands and thousands and thousands of hours and never hear a true statement regarding social engineering, conditioning. Never the word occult mentioned. The word morality is never mentioned one time anywhere in any of those forums. And these people want to believe anything they're talking about or saying could ever benefit or improve humanity in any way from either perspective. This is what I mean when I say almost the whole species lives on Mount Stupid. None of them can see the causal factors or the solutions because they don't have enough knowledge. And I could say that nastily, I can say it calmly, I could say it comedically. It's still going to be true. You're never going to change the veracity of what I am saying because it is true inherently in nature, and I've vetted it with the trivium process an innumerable amount of times. And I know how to do that, and most people don't. And again, maybe that'll be an entire seminar one day, is how do you actually apply the trivium? But see, it becomes a difficult thing to explain because you actually have to spend a lot of time aggregating knowledge and actually taking it into yourself before you could ever even get to step 2 of the trivium. And what I'm telling all the people within the sound of my voice is you guys haven't even done the first step of getting the knowledge, let alone logically processing it to try to understand what it means. when it comes to these dynamics, you don't even have the knowledge you need. I'm trying to give you the basic building blocks of knowledge of what you need to research and look into. And you guys haven't even spent a fucking second. You haven't spent a millisecond on that. Even gathering the knowledge. Almost all of you. All you do is you listen, you thin slice like a retard. Don't quit your day job and try to become some person who intuitively figures things out and then tells other people what's about to come down the pike or over the horizon. You wouldn't fare well. You'd fail at that miserably because your intuition's in the shitter. And don't try to be a psychologist because you don't know anything about human psychology or what drives and motivates people to do what they do, least of all Mark Passio. You definitely are not my psychologist, and don't quit your loser-ass day job to try to become anyone's psychologist, least of all mine. Let's move on. This is the final section of the presentation, which we will continue with over the next 3 shows, this one and then the 2 remaining ones. I call this section the rebirth of the goddess, the rebirth of the sacred feminine, or solutions for healing the gender divide. So if we're going to heal the gender divide, we have to really bring to bear the true sacred dynamic of care. If you don't care enough to go out and aggregate the knowledge that you need to learn, you'll never become truly knowledgeable. If you're not truly knowledgeable, you can never understand what the causal factors are, and you certainly can't understand what the potential solutions are. And if you're not knowledgeable and understanding enough, you're certainly not going to take rightful action to put those solutions into effect and heal the divide between men and women and heal the dynamic that is really decimating human freedom in our world, which is not understanding objective morality and natural law. And that would be done so much quicker if we heal the gender divide, because then men and women can work together on the main prospect, on the main dynamic that they need to learn, which is objective morality and natural law. We're too busy fighting each other over, cutting off each other's body parts and enslaving each other. I mean, it's so ridiculous where they've gotten people mentally and what people believe is the answer. You guys are so far away from the answer that it literally is like trying to talk to people between 2 mountaintops. You gotta come along in knowledge. You gotta figure this stuff out, folks, and stop fighting me on it. And stop fighting the truth. You're not fighting Mark Passio. You're fighting the truth of the real knowledge that you need to understand to be free. That's why I tell you, you're never going to be free. And you're doing other people harm by perpetuating those levels of ignorance in yourself and then trying to push them upon others. You're doing harm. And you don't have the right to remain ignorant of this dynamic. People don't have the right. They have the right to think whatever they want. But when you continue to think wrongness, you continue to think complete inaccuracy, you continue to think total ignorance, you eventually develop belief systems. And humans are not allowed under natural law to just believe whatever they want. You can have a thought and hold it in your mind for a brief time about anything you want. Of course, wrong action is prohibited by natural law, and then we reap negative karmic impact by taking wrong action that makes our whole society more disorderly and chaotic as a whole. But even belief systems, worldviews, hardened and calcified progressions of thought that are never healed and righted, when you continue to think with wrongness, factually and morally, you develop a calcified belief system structure in your entire makeup, in your worldview, in your whole personality as a being. And you don't have the right to do that. You don't have the right to stay in ignorance of a calcified belief system. Again, people want to fight me on that. That I can believe whatever I want. Wrong. That's untrue. Belief systems in themselves can be actionable under natural law. Because if you believe someone else is the rightful slave of another, you will do actions that will perpetuate that wrongful scenario. All of the people who believed slavery was perfectly right and moral would have helped people continue to physically enslave people in chattel slavery in the past. All of the people today who hold the belief system that government is perfectly natural and moral are doing harm to other people in the world because they're perpetuating the violence that the actual order-following violent thugs do to people under the system of government, which is slavery. You do not have a right to continue to believe completely morally and factually incorrect belief systems. And this goes to all of the people who want to believe things about human nature that are untrue. You don't have a right to continue to buy into a completely ignorant and incorrect worldview. You can think anything to try to hone and flesh out thoughts that lead to an accurate understanding. But to calcify a wrong belief is not a human right. You have to be at least fluid in what you think you're so sure of. And that's the problem, is you're not even that. You're hardened and calcified into your wrong worldview and belief system. And you're doing tremendous harm to the body of humanity as a result. So let's look at these actual solutions for getting people's minds out of this complete satanic mindset through their form of social engineering, and let's look at what our solutions that we can apply and help people get out of that mindset, out of that social engineering. The first thing, as I said last week, is you have to realize that the change has to be internal, not external. And just because a person like myself gets angry that most people don't understand this, don't care about this, and certainly don't do the actual internal transformative shadow work that they need to do to change from within, me pointing that out in any level of frustration or even rage is not the problem. Never has been the problem, never will be the problem, because I will not accept that other people will just remain in a state of complete ignorance and incompetence when it comes to the understanding of the dynamic of how human freedom really works, because it doesn't just affect them. It affects me, it affects those I care for, it affects everyone that will ever come after us in the body of humanity. And that's who I am fighting for. I'm first of all primarily fighting for the truth. The truth can't defend itself. People say the truth doesn't need defending. Bullshit. The truth needs total defense. When something is being attacked by lies and deceit, we should come to its defense. And the truth is completely under continual attack by complete lies, by deceit, by ignorance, by morons who believe the opposite of what is actually true. And we should always be the voice telling them that's not correct. You can believe that until the end of time. The truth is one way. The truth is eternal. The truth is black and white, and it doesn't bend for your arrogant, ignorant ass. It is going to devour you. It is going to put you in the ground. First, it's going to put you in the chains of slavery and tyranny. Then it's going to put you into the state of extinction in the fucking ground. That's it. That's where humanity is going, because they won't internally change themselves. And then people have the arrogant balls the hubris to say to someone like myself who has done the required shadow work that I need more shadow work? You guys can go fuck your asses. Shut up about the shadow work I need to do. I've done the shadow work that I need to do. I can work on trying to be a little bit more patient and tolerant with fucking arrogant idiot losers who think they have the solutions when they don't, and don't want to listen to somebody who actually does have the solutions. And you want to say I have no right to be frustrated to the level that I actually yell at people? Go fuck yourselves, children. You're wrong, and you're stupid assholes in addition to being wrong. And we can play a nice little slide flute song. I can honk your horn. This is your clarion call. There's your bat signal. And we say it to you in a nice shit-eating grin, new agey, fucktard voice. And then it becomes true. And don't worry, you're not under mind control. If I just start yelling it, then it becomes false. That's how reality works, dumb fucks. So we'll keep just calling you dumb fuck to your face with a shit-eating new age grin on mine, and then you can hear it. And this is what I've been telling people since day one that I started the podcast. You have to change how you think. And almost every one of you little shit in the fucking diapers, arrogant little boys and arrogant little girls have done since day one is you said, fuck you. I'm going to continue to think exactly in my satanic mindset that I've always been in since my mother crapped me out of her snatch. And I'm going to stay in that satanic, arrogant mindset. I'm not going to listen to the voice of wisdom. Fuck you, person who knows infinitely more than I do. I want to stay in my complete, arrogant, ignorant, asshole-ish, satanic mindset and continue to do the harm that my mindset has been doing since I've been in the world. And then I'm going to get angry at you for giving me the truth of the message that I'm the problem and what needs to change is my bullshit satanic mindset. I'll get mad at that messenger. These are who are the biggest hot shots, the biggest people who are working within the freedom movement, the biggest so-called activists. They put the cart before the horse. They put their rhetoric before their grammar and logic. They put action before knowledge and understanding. Then in their next breath, they want to tell the people who actually did the trivium in the correct order that they're the ones who are wrong. No, folks, that's not how it works, and I'm not the new age, falsely humble bullshit storyteller that says I need to be completely humble about what I know. I don't need to be humble about my knowledge. I devastated my life to achieve the knowledge that I have. And I mean destroyed it. I destroyed the life that I want for myself to pursue this, to pursue truth, to pursue accurate understanding of freedom, and to disseminate that to the dullard masses of this planet, who it really is pearls thrown before swine. And that's horribly sad, because this information is nursery school fucking level. And by this point, it should be fully known, it should be fully integrated, and it should be fully acted upon. We don't need more time. Time is not the issue. The issue is satanic ego. The issue is the insistence that you are correct when you are not. The issue is the insistence that in your satanic ego, you know enough, and you do not know enough. You are poor in knowledge. That's why you're in a poor condition. If you were in a good condition, it would mean that you have high knowledge. Only high knowledge leads to a good condition. We have to admit that we're in a poor condition because we're in a poor level of knowledge still to this day. And we have not communicated that knowledge to the extent that it needs to be communicated. We've done a completely shit job at that, at communicating the truth to others. Not only don't we know it ourselves, we're not speaking the truth out to others in a fearless and completely focused and driven way, in an unapologetic way. It's all because people don't want to change. You don't want to go from being a private person who just is content to stay at your place on Mount Stupid because it's so comfortable, to being a person who might have to at first doubt themselves a little as they gain more and more knowledge, and eventually truly become an expert on the topic because they've gained all the knowledge that they require to know and explain that dynamic to others so that we can bring humanity along. And you don't want to then speak it to other people. You're all the people I've been talking to since day one of this podcast, almost through 200 of them, who are the people at the bottom of this image on the left that put their hand down when the person asks who wants to actually change themselves. You've done no changing. You've stayed on Mount Stupid. You haven't expanded your knowledge. You haven't expanded your worldview. You've listened to a tiny extent, but only for curiosity's sake, only as an intellectual experiment. You haven't really heard. Action is required of you. Action must happen through you changing yourself. And what you've said is, go fuck yourself. I'm not changing. I'm not the problem. And I'm telling you, you're the exact heart of the problem, because you don't have enough knowledge to truly understand and teach how the dynamic of freedom works in nature. And that's why you're going into abject tyranny, slavery, and extinction, which will be merciful if it ever arrives. This existence is a torture condition, and you guys don't want to do what's required to change it, and that means you're evil motherfuckers who are content to let evil rule this place and enslave every child that ever enters this place. And how else could you describe that except evil? People who don't want to do the internalized work to truly change their worldview and gain true knowledge of how freedom really works are evil. Ignorance is evil. It's certainly not bliss. It's certainly not happiness. It certainly doesn't make you in any form a good person. As a matter of fact, it exactly equates to the exact opposite dynamic. Remaining ignorant and not changing one's internal makeup for the better and teaching people morality and natural law actually means that you yourself are an evil person who is content to let evil continue to run amok in our world, because it's an inescapable, logical conclusion once you have any aspect of the trivium in hand that the only dynamic that ever could change humanity for the better is the correct understanding of true objective morality and the correct understanding of how natural law works, and then aligning human behavior to how natural law actually works. If you guys aren't doing that, you're part of the problem, because you're not assisting nature in helping move humanity forward evolutionarily in consciousness. You are actually the opposite force, the involutionary force, which is Satan itself in nature, and you are trying to hold the progression evolutionarily in consciousness of humanity back at a lower level by continuing to believe the bullshit worldview that you believe, continuing to stay attached to the nonsensical religious thought that you stay attached to continue not to understand objective morality and natural law and teach it to others. That makes you evil. That makes your soul captured. If you want to come out of that state of having your heart, mind, and soul captured by evil, then you need to change internally, and that begins with your worldview. There are two primary choices in life: to accept conditions as they exist or to accept the responsibility for changing those conditions. And I'm telling you, almost 100% of you who have listened from day one have not accepted the responsibility to change the human condition for yourself. You haven't taken the brunt of that work upon your own shoulders. That's why the weight hasn't been distributed and the burden hasn't been lessened. The people who are actually making the choice to accept the responsibility to change the conditions of life on Earth are completely battle fatigued. They're exhausted from remaining in the theater of war at the level of intensity that they have engaged this spiritual war for freedom for far, 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 far too long without the adequate help that they so desperately require. And they've been begging for that assistance and help. And what almost 100%, certainly well over 99% of you guys have done is you have raised your middle fingers into our face while we are dying of exhaustion on the battlefield and told us to go fuck ourselves. Fuck you. That's for you to do, mule. Keep fighting for us, mule. Fuck you. We won't lift a finger to help. That's your fucking job alone, and it's not ours. And you know what I say back to you people? I don't have any fucking tolerance for that. I'm not making excuses for that. I don't have any fucking compassion for that bullshit, nor should anyone. You're evil. And you've always been evil. And you're going to go where evil fucking people go, which is into tyranny and death. And you fucking deserve it. You deserve every fucking bit of it. I'm not the problem. I've done what's required of me. You're the fucking problem. You've done fucking nothing but complain about the person who has actually explained to people how the dynamics of freedom work better than any other in human history. That's not an arrogant statement either, because I've broken it out to the fucking public and reached more people than anybody of the past with the understanding of how natural law functions truly. So I can say that without being an arrogant prick about it, and that doesn't mean I'm on Mount Stupid with you. I'm saying what's true about what I've taught. I know that it's true, factually, vetted with the trivium on the plateau of competency and true wisdom. Not where you're at. We're not the same, you and I. We are not the same nature of creature. Let's get that straight. And I shouldn't even say nature, because we have the same nature that we can be motivated, we can be changed. If we want change, we can change ourselves. The capacity is there. The Creator saw to putting that capacity there for all. So we do have that same shared nature. What I should say is we are not the same when it comes to what we have done with that capacity whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it makes me almost like a completely different species than almost everybody else out there because of the level that I've actually engaged with that capacity for learning and growth and change. And at the level you guys have stayed stagnant or gone straight downhill regarding that capacity. Why change is difficult. Most people spend a great deal of their day unconsciously feeling and thinking from past memories. They're not in the present moment. They do this because they have hardwired those previous experiences into their brains by repeatedly thinking of them and by associating many other experiences with those memories. This is the idea that as neurons fire together, they wire together, and they become clusters that are actually holding us back in a state of programmed consciousness. This is brilliant if you understand it. This is epigenetics, ladies and gentlemen. It makes sense that if most people maintain the same environment for long periods of their lives, where nothing new is happening, or there is no change, the repeated stimuli will therefore produce the reactivation of associative neural networks, which will become more developed, strengthened, and refined, meaning the longer you stay in a pattern of mind control, the harder it becomes to escape it. Joe Dispenza knows what he's talking about, and he has studied this from a new biology and epigenetics perspective. I do not believe he understands that what this is very, very, very deeply occulted science. He does not understand the occult, to my knowledge. But in learning enough about how it really works in human biology and consciousness, he has actually penetrated the world of the occult without knowing it consciously. This is occult knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, told to you by a scientist who is essentially exploring the realms of epigenetics and consciousness change. And his work is brilliant. I highly recommend it. As a consequence of that, continuing with the quote from Joe Dispenza, as a consequence of that lack of novelty in their environment and experiences, they have become hardwired to their own worlds. No wonder change is so difficult. And he means their own internal worlds. He means their own worldviews inside their mind. They can't let go of that worldview because of how hardwired their neural pathways and networks have become. And therefore, they are stuck in a state of satanic calcification. Joe Dispenza is a guy you should really listen to about this. I think another person is Dr. Bruce Lipton. I think another person is Kevin Trudeau. I think another person who brilliantly explained the dynamic of novelty and why it is so important and not to remain in complete stagnation with lack of change in one's environment and thought process is Terence McKenna. Once again, I keep going back to the work of Terence McKenna over and over, and he's another person that history is going to absolutely realize that he was way ahead of the curve, way ahead of his time, and telling people the truth when they did not want to hear it. And it was not understood. People were not integrating his lessons. They were not really hearing what he was saying, just like they're not really hearing what I'm saying. You should really go back and check these people's work out. If you haven't, you should exhaust their work. You should listen and watch and read everything they've ever put out. Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce Lipton. I think Greg Braden has some phenomenal work in the field of epigenetics as well, and an understanding of how consciousness can be changed if we stop staying addicted to terrible patterns of thinking. And people want to say somehow that's what I've done. Folks, no, I haven't. I've just told you in no uncertain terms that that's what you have been doing. There's a difference between me staying in a stagnant mind and telling you that you've been staying in a stagnant state of consciousness. Because it hasn't changed, and I'm telling you that it hasn't changed, doesn't mean that the problem is with me telling you you haven't changed. It's with you not changing. And you're just too arrogant and stupid to realize that's the problem, not Mark Passio telling you so. These guys just don't challenge you the way I do. They say it nicely. They're not trying to pull you into the realm of internal shadow work the way I have been for the last 10 years. You see, you want to hear the person that confirms your confirmation bias of what you already think in your own mind. Or you'll listen to a person even tell you something that contradicts it if they say it super nice. But woe to the person that says, you need to do internal shadow work and you don't have an unlimited time to do it. You need to improve. You're not where you need to be. It's unacceptable for you to stay there. You've had enough time to learn that process of change and integrate it and do it, and you haven't done it. then forget about it. Then we need to go on the fucking warpath because how dare you try to say something about another person is inadequate or needs to change for the better. I'll tell you who I am, a person with real wisdom about how freedom works that is realizing you're fucking the whole world and you don't even give a shit. And that means you're fucking every child that is yet to be born. And you don't even give a shit. And you don't think that makes you an evil motherfucker? That makes you one of the evilest motherfuckers that ever walked. Don't even worry about pointing fingers at the dark occultists. Point them right at your own evil loser face in the mirror and sit down with yourself and do some serious fucking internal shadow work upon yourself and tell yourself how you've completely been a miserable fucking failure at changing your own worldview, at changing your internal true dynamic of care in your fucking black-hearted fucking soul, and in changing what you're actually going to do in the world to actually teach objective morality and natural law, because that's the only solution. There is no other solution. People have to become moral by knowing what real morality is and aligning their behavior to true good. Otherwise, no change can ever happen on the earth. The end. Period. Full stop. That's the way it works. It doesn't work any other way. You're in a state of satanic ego if you believe that it does, or you don't want to accept that that's the only answer. You're in satanic fucking ego. And I'll just say it to you like that, no matter who you are, because the answer I'm giving you is the absolutely correct one. And I know that it is because I'm an expert in the field of how this aspect of consciousness and freedom works. And I've done that work, and there's nobody out ahead of me. There are other people who make phenomenal contributions to that work, but I am at the very, very tip of the spear when it comes to that of anyone who is alive today. And you can say all you want that that's an arrogant statement, and it's still a true one. What we need is a true occult initiation. We need a true spearhead of occult initiation to be driven forward in our world. We need an occult revival in the positive light aspects of occult knowledge. We don't need more dark occultism in the world, most certainly. We have plenty of that. We don't need more imbeciles who never begin the spiritual journey, because God knows we have enough. We're overflowing. The seams are busting at how many we have at that one. Buttons are flying off at the speed of a bullet from people's shirts at how full we are of that. Okay? We need a true, positive, light occult revival. We need a light occult revival. There's a name for a band. You know, light occult revival. That's what we need. Okay? And that is the beginning of the true streetwise spiritual journey into wisdom and higher levels of consciousness. There's a quote from Henri Bergson. He said, "Fortunately, some are born with spiritual immune systems that sooner or later give rejection to the illusory worldview grafted upon them from birth through social conditioning." And I believe he was saying this in the early part of the 1900s, if I'm not mistaken. At the very latest, I believe it was the mid part of the 1900s, which is absolutely unimaginably ahead of his time to even put together a sentence that is that accurate about what's really going on this planet and what explains the total dynamics, especially of this presentation of how women's minds have been completely social engineered and how there's been a gender war created as a result. I'm going to read that again because it's so profound. Fortunately, some are born with spiritual immune systems that sooner or later give rejection to the illusory worldview grafted upon them from birth through social conditioning. Everything I've been talking about in this presentation is summed up by that sentence. They begin sensing that something is amiss and start looking for answers. Inner knowledge and anomalous outer experiences show them a side of reality that others are oblivious to. And so begins their journey of awakening. Each step of the journey is made by following the heart instead of following the crowd, and by choosing knowledge over the veils of ignorance. Care has to drive your depth into knowledge and right action. Care. You need knowledge, you need care, you need right action. You have to care enough to achieve the knowledge. That's the first step. You have to acquire the knowledge. You have to understand what it means, and then you need to care enough to do the correct moral thing with it. And some people, they even achieve the acquisition of the knowledge, but they don't care enough to do something with it. They're not inspired by the sacred feminine dynamic of agape love, of true care, to do the right thing with what they have come to know. They stay doing nothing. Even knowledgeable people stay doing nothing. And these are the people I'm largely talking to. I'm talking to total know-nothings, and I'm talking to the people, the know-nothings are at the peak of Mount Stupid on the graph we showed, and I'm talking to people in the Valley of Despair. You've gained a lot of knowledge, and even those who are coming up that slope of enlightenment, you're on the way, but you haven't converted the knowledge that you've garnered over the years into right moral action by doing the great work yourself. That's why there's so few voices explaining these dynamics. I did the work for you, folks. You don't need to make all these slides. I see some people out there using the entirety of my slides to communicate these ideas. Great. I'm not telling you can't do that. You don't even need my permission. I consider this like open source stuff. It'd be pleasantly respectful if you said Mark Passio made all these slides. I'm just teaching the knowledge. That'd be wonderful. I don't even require that. I'd like if you did that. It'd be nice because it's like you're giving a nod to someone. I'm giving a nod to these people with these quotes, right? It'd be nice, but I don't even care if you don't do that. I really don't. There's no excuse for any person not speaking out in the modern world. Zero excuse. And you need to do the shadow work to tell yourself, I'm just a lazy fucking person who doesn't want to put skin in the game because I want my comfort here on Mount Stupid or in the Valley of Despair. I'm laying in a nice little fucking hammock here in the Valley of Despair. Or I got my nice log cabin with all the amenities up on the summit of Mount Stupid. Why do I need to come with you? That's a hard climb. That's a long journey. These are the people who I am speaking to this late in the game, this late in this show. If you're not one of those people and you've really come along to the plateau of wisdom, absolutely brilliant, wonderful. You have my thanks. You have my gratuity. You have my gratitude. You have my appreciation. And I consider you one of my peers for having made that journey. Thank you. That's it. Everybody else, what the fuck have you been doing? And the real answer is sit down, look in a mirror, and tell yourself the truth before pointing fingers at someone who's done this work, who has made that journey and done that work to a very high level. Even alienating people by screaming at them in anger and frustration and rage. I've still done that at a higher level than anyone else. And what you guys need to sit and look in the mirror and tell yourself is, I'm just a fucking lazy bitch that doesn't want to do the hard work and put skin in the game and sacrifice any of my time, energy, and resources because I'm a selfish, satanically minded loser that is playing to lose. That's shadow work. And the reason I say it aloud is because I know you guys are so loath and reticent to say it to yourself because you're lying sacks of shit that just want to be told bullshit that you want to hear. And everybody else will just tell you the bullshit so that they keep getting clicks, they keep getting thumbs ups and likes, they keep getting paid. I don't give a shit about any of those things, and I'm not here to get you to like me. I'm here to get you to align to truth, objective morality, natural law, and the real solution, which lies in teaching that knowledge to others once you have attained it and aligned your behavior to it. And once again, what you guys have said is fuck you and fuck truth and fuck humanity by extension. I'm not coming on that journey. I'm staying here on Mount Stupid. Make no mistake about it. That's who most of you are. That's what almost every single one of you who I am talking about that embodies that dynamic are doing with your life. And that is how you are completely destroying freedom. You're not on the side of good. You're not on the side of justice. You're not on the side of real morality. You're not on the side of the manifestation of true freedom. You can think you are all you want, and that will never be true until you do the shadow work and you step into the role of fulfilling the requirements that actually generate human freedom instead of paying bullshit lip service to it. So here's your salute from me to you. Enjoy being clowned out. Enjoy being punked, bitched, clowned, and fucked. Because that's what you're going to be for all eternity. You're going to be punked, bitched, clowned, fucked, and killed by these Satanists that have your mind possessed. They've already possessed your mind. They possessed your parents' minds long before you were born. They possessed society's minds long before your parents were born. You were born into that state of possession over the mind, and you were just too fucking lazy, arrogant, weak-minded, stupid, and uncaring to get your mind out of that condition. And the problem is not with the person who is telling you that. The problem is entirely inside your blackened, satanic heart. J. Krishnamurti said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Amen. And that's the problem, is that they have normalized total mental and spiritual disease. Your mental and spiritual possession has been normalized, and like everybody thinks that's just fine. Your total state of complete, abject destruction of health has been glorified as you're just fine. You're in a perfect state of health and wellness and normalcy. And no, you're not. You're in a complete state of disease. You're in a complete state of mental illness. You're in a complete state of complete absence of true spiritual knowledge and wisdom. And then you want to tell a person who is healthy in those respects that I'm the problem. No, I am not, ladies and gentlemen. The problem does not lie with me. I have learned what I have needed to learn. I have met the requirements of what I have needed to do, and I have done them. The problem lies with you. Point the finger at yourself, not at me. Adaya Shanti, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct, but said this quote: "Enlightenment is a destructive process." I've been saying this over the last many weeks. Truth and the process of enlightenment are subtractive and destructive. They are not additive. They take away wrong thinking that is embedded like a virus. They take away toxicity. They take away all of the toxins that have led people into a state of complete mental and spiritual illness and disease and unhealthiness. Continuing the quote, it has nothing to do, enlightenment has nothing to do with becoming better or being happier. Enlightenment is the crumbling away of untruth. Enlightenment has nothing to do with becoming better or happier. It does have to do with being better in a way. It just means like I'm not strutting around telling everybody I'm so much better than them. I am telling people that knowledge makes you a better, more moral human being. And when you are in a state of ignorance regarding what real morality is, you're not a good person. Now, the most important part of this quote is right here. Enlightenment is the crumbling away of untruth. It is breaking all of the walls, breaking all of the barriers that you have erected to the light, to the truth, to change internally within yourself. Enlightenment is seeing through the facade of pretense. It's getting to a level of consciousness where you are able to recognize truth from falsehood because you have so much knowledge that you can no longer be fooled. You can no longer be fucking told that the earth is flat because you know the trivia method and you know arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy, and you can really perform the trivium process where other people can't. And by the way, please keep outing yourselves on my social media as flat earthers, because then the block process can go a lot faster. Like, I really don't want you sitting there taking up a friend spot. All the people watching this out on Facebook or X, just post, tag me and post, I'm a flat earther and you're wrong. There's the trend I want to see on all social media. Tag Mark Passio. If you're on my friends list, I don't want to hear this from anybody. Tag Mark Passio if you're my friend on any social media platform and say, I'm your friend on social media. You're wrong about the earth. It's flat. I just want that done over and over. So block, 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 block. We'll speak duck speak in block. It'll be block, 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 block. All day long, every day, duck speak with the one word block. And I'll just go, it'll be like rapid machine gun fire. Straight down the fucking line, block everybody. Please do out yourself because you're taking up a spot that I could give to a non-retarded. I could give that spot to someone who's not a retarded shit ape. Instead of giving it to a retarded shit ape that doesn't deserve even being digitally called a friend, an associate, whatever. Because me and you are not the same. I know how reality in the trivium works. You do not. Especially, you don't have nothing to do with natural law and objective morality if you're a flat earther. They could give a shit. Not one of them has ever spoken the words. They don't care because all they give a shit about is their CIA invented religion, and they're going to quadruple and quintuple and sextuple and they'll nonuple to infinity down, and it does not matter. No one will ever dissuade them from their CIA-invented religion, and you can have it. Just keep your bullshit away from me. You can go and make as many Flat Earth websites as you want. You could have all your podcasts about it. You could make documentaries about it. That's your right as a human being to speak. Don't proselytize to me because I've told everybody publicly an innumerable amount of times. I want you off my social media. I want you off contacting me. Stop blowing my phone up about it. If you go and scrape my number up from out your ass, stop text bombing me. Stop DM bombing me. I don't welcome your contact. I have the right of free association, just like you have the right to freedom of speech. I don't wish to be contacted you because your butt hurt that you couldn't pull Mark Passio into your bullshit CIA invented cult. I'm not in your cult. I'm a different animal than you. We have a different mind. I'm never going to be in your cult. Fuck your cult. Keep your cult away from me. Your cult is bullshit. I don't subscribe to your cult bullshit religious beliefs. I want to be respected in that I'm telling you, you can have your bullshit cult religious beliefs. Have them all you want. Spread it as much as you want. I don't want to be proselytized. If Jehovah's Witnesses tell you, fuck you, I'm coming on your property every day, fuck you. I'm coming up on your property every day and I'm going to harass you for as long as I want to harass you. That's actionable because that's trespass. It's one of the transgressions against natural law. It's also coercion. You're coercing somebody against their will to try to give you of their time and attention. I am under no obligation to give anybody time and attention. And I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's worth repeating because people don't understand how I'm endlessly digitally harassed by these CIA-invented movements. And I'm telling them, leave me alone. You're conducting an actionable offense of trespass and coercion. And I've told people, I'm going to leave it at that. Fuck around and find out. So, let's move on. Next slide. Here's the number one thing of occult knowledge that the people who need to understand what I've just talked about regarding the solution and people's worldview needing to change. This is the dynamic that first and foremost needs to change. I've repeatedly brought this up and told people this is one of the number one things that holds humanity in slavery, is not understanding what human nature is. If you do not understand this dynamic, you cannot understand the true nature of how natural law and the dynamic of freedom versus tyranny works on this planet. It's impossible. And almost no human being that I have ever encountered truly knows what human nature is. This is a question you can ask literally in an extended metropolitan population. You could survey 1 million people, and 1 million out of 1 million, and I'm not exaggerating, I mean the totality of the set of respondents, not 999,999. All 1 million people will answer the question, describe what human nature actually is, incorrectly. Just like you could ask practically 1 million people, maybe this dynamic might be slightly less absolute. What is a human right? Although I might be giving too much credit. Again, I've never accurately gotten the answer from a person that I've asked, define a human right. Not one time in any social experiment that I've ever conducted. And we've done quite a few of them. What I would like people to do is do these social experiments. Go out and ask. I would like to receive the results of your social experiments with questions like this. Give a definition for a human right. What is definitionally a human right? And I would like to, I don't need all the responses. All I need is how many people got the answer incorrect versus how many people actually gave the correct answer. Give me that breakdown. This many people, percentage-wise, got the answer incorrect, or even numbers. I surveyed 100 people. 99% of people gave the incorrect definition of a human right. One person did give me the correct answer, which is a human right is an action that does not initiate harm upon another sentient being. That's the correct answer of what a human right is. It is an action which does not initiate harm upon another sentient being. almost no one can give that correct answer. Do another experiment or do them at the same time. Please tell me in very few words, what is human nature? And give me the breakdown. I surveyed 1,000 people. 1,000 people got the answer incorrect about what human nature is. No one gave me the correct answer. Or 999 gave me an incorrect answer. One gave me the correct answer. I guarantee you won't fare much better than that. It would be shocking if more than one person in a group of 1,000 can give the correct answer to what human nature is. And that could be answered in one word. See, with what is a right, we have to at least string together a complex thought which forms a sentence, essentially. With what is human nature, that can be answered in one word, programmability. That's the correct answer. Human nature is programmability. That's it. And you could say, it is obviously life. That's going too fundamental. I want to know what is the actual natural state of a human being's mind is what we're really talking about. The essence inside a human being. Obviously, we're biological flesh and bone beings, flesh, bone, and blood beings. I'm not talking about described human biology, right? Obviously, we're beings that could be categorized as a form of animal living upon the earth, whose mental nature is that they are programmable. That's what I really want. What is the mental nature of the human being? And ultimately, the fundamental nature of the human being at the base cosmic level is that we are consciousness having an experience to learn and grow. That's the real underlying nature of the human being. I'm talking about more what is the mental essence of a human being. And people will say it's evil, it's good, it's bad, it's this, it's indifferent, it's lazy, it's cowardly. They'll give you all kinds of different nonsensical answers. Human nature is none of those things. They are conditions which come out of either good programming or conditions that are the result of bad programming through information. That's it. Human beings' nature is that we are programmable through information. That's it. We are a programmable species. Human beings are programmable. Their nature is programmability. Much like computers. Once again, I got people writing me, Mark, are you there? And they'll type that out on an email. Mark, are you there? Why are you telling us that people are computers? When did I ever say, speak the sentence or write the sentence, people are computers or human beings are computers? Never once. You'll never be able to find the place where I did it because I never did it. And this is what I have. Abject retards writing to me. Hey, Mark. Well, I don't know why you're saying that people are computers, because we're not computers. I agree, we're not computers, morons. Where did you hear that we were? Because it didn't come out of my mouth. That drooled out of your ears. You see, this is what people who can't actually listen to the words that are being said jump to a completely incorrect perception of what was said and then go out and say, I said this thing that I never said. And then I'm not supposed to get slightly perturbed that people are speaking untruths about what I ever said. Because I never said that people are computers. I said that people are much like computers. We operate according to these same general principles of information goes in, information gets processed, information comes out. That's it, just like a computer. Like a computer. Notice if I thought we were computers, I would say as a computer. I said like a computer. That's the difference between a metaphor and saying something is something. Again, obviously, if the people didn't pay attention in arithmetic and geometry class, I highly doubt they really paid attention in literature class or in even English grammar, because they don't know the difference between like and is. You know? This is where we're at, though, folks, that you really have to speak to people like a retarded child to get them to understand how flawed and fucked up their thinking is. And believe me, it is horrifically flawed and fucked up because of their programmability as a being. And they got really deep, dark, fetid shit programmed into their dullard brain. And that's why they'll output things like, Mark, why are you saying we're computers, Mark? Try to cram the shit back into your ears because you splattered it all over everybody else out your mouth, and then get a nice big long Q-tip and clear the shit out so you can actually hear what was said. Dunce. Like a computer, if a human being has a bad file system format, which is like formatting a hard drive, these could be compared to the conditions during a child's formative years. Formative years. You see? We say formative, and we don't hear the word format. Just like we say ignorance, and we don't hear the word ignore. That's the root. If you're going through formative years, don't you think you're being formatted? Formatted? It's the process of formatting the brain. You're laying into the brain the file system that is now going to run the brain. Then you're putting files in it. And the first files you lay down after a format, if you're going to run a computer system, must be the operating system. So after the drive is formatted, like a M2 NVMe drive or a solid state drive, like a SATA 2 solid state, you then put the operating system in. First step is you erase and you lay the format. That's the file system. Then you're going to put the operating system in. So the file system goes in first, then the operating system goes in. And the operating system is one's culture that you're born into. That's the system of your operating environment, just like what what Joe Dispenza was talking about in that previous quote. That when we're around the operating system, the culture, unchanging conditions for long enough, they get hardwired into us. And that's bad programming. The brain computer, so to speak, that acts like a computer, which takes in information from the culture or the operating system, starts wiring very badly. Because if the operating system is all screwed up and has tons of bugs and has tons of viruses, it's not going to work properly, and it's going to screw up everything you try to do, including run software. After you lay down the file system and then the operating system on a computer, you put software programs on it, programs or apps, as they can be sort of interchangeably called. And the software programs are knowledge, information, belief systems, understandings, axioms, etc. And if those are bad, if those are incorrect, if those are false, if those are rigid and dogmatic religious beliefs that don't conform to reality and how it actually functions in nature, then you're going to screw everything that you do up, because you're going to be running a bad file format, you're going to be running a bad operating system, there's going to be bad blocks on the drive probably, you're going to have a terrible system with tons of bugs in the underlying supportive system, maybe in the graphics subsystem, maybe in the API subsystem, which controls programming, and then you're going to be running terrible software with tons of bugs in it. What do you think that's going to do? Give you the answers you want? You think that's going to provide the correct answers and solutions? You think it's going to put onto the screen the order and correctness that you wish to see? You're going to be running fucked up programs. What's that going to output onto the screen, which is our everyday life? It's going to output bullshit and chaos and randomness and disorder that you're not even going to recognize as such because you were poorly programmed. So if the software programs are erroneous, rigid, dogmatic beliefs, the output or behavior onto the, quote, screen, which is our shared experience called human life on Earth, will also be terrible and will contribute to the deteriorating human condition on a mass scale. That right there, you have the answer to life, the universe, and everything in that sentence. That's the answer to life, the universe, and everything. That's really everything that you need to know that no one else told you, is what is human nature and how does it function. Human nature is programmability. If the program that is put into the mind is bad, you get bad output onto the screen called life, and your experience becomes fucked up and intolerable and slavery. If instead the behavior of a human being is high quality, the information programmed into a human being is high quality, the behavior that's going to come out on the other side will also be high quality. And it will contribute to orderliness. It will contribute to freedom. It will contribute to goodness being expressed in the human condition. The human condition is what we make of it through our input of information into our minds, how we accurately process information, and then how we output data to other people and understanding to other people. And we have been abject, miserable, lazy, fucking failures at that entire, not only process, but at even the understanding of how that works. This is what I mean when I say not only do you have the trivium in hand, you don't even understand what it is. That's the trivium. Like a computer, the behavior of a human being will largely depend upon its programming, which is the quality of the information put into it, which then enables it to process and create effectively and efficiently. In other words, if garbage goes in, garbage comes out. If quality goes in, quality comes out. This is not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. I say this repeatedly. This is nursery school shit. If you don't understand this, you aren't graduating nursery school as a being. And human beings are nowhere near graduating nursery school. You are being you're being put in abject bondage and shackles and chains in the corner of the nursery school because you're a problem child creating problems for all the other children in your nursery school the whole time shitting in your diaper. And you haven't learned and integrated any of the lessons. Thank you. Some nice crisp-looking ale there. And I will accept it in the last 10 minutes of the show. This slide, plus the Dunning-Kruger slide, tells you everything you need to know about what's going on this planet. And I'm telling you, people will still not be able to understand it because they can't read and accurately, truly integrate and comprehend what they are reading and seeing. That's how dumbed down they've been through what's laughingly called the education system. And I really believe that. I really believe that people can't really read that slide and deeply grok it They can hear the words, but they really don't understand what's being said. Just like I don't really think people can read a simple function graph. Like, I think I could present that function graph from now to eternity, and like 99.8% of human beings won't care and won't understand what it means. This is how degraded the human mind and human understanding is. The next thing in this presentation is we're going to take a very brief look at some of the groups and organizations that direct themselves the agenda for social engineering to completely steer and modify the way people think on a mass scale in our entire culture. One of the big ones that people that have remained completely occulted is the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. It is one of the biggest think tank groups that propagates mind control out to humanity. They exist in London, and they are a continuation and offshoot of the group known as Wellington House, which was the War Propaganda Bureau during World War I. And their job as war propagandists was to get England and then subsequently the United States involved in World War I. And Wellington House eventually branched off and became, at a later point in the 1940s, the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, or perhaps, I'm sorry, Wellington House might have been created in the early 1940s, and then the Tavistock Institute was formulated from their ashes in the 1970s. I have to get the exact dates correct, but as I understand it, it was at least a couple of decades from their initial creation as Wellington House. This is something that people have to read, and I highly recommend John Coleman's book called The Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, Shaping the Moral, Spiritual, Cultural, Political, and Economic Decline of the United States of America is the subtitle of the book. And boy, was he prophetic, and was he totally explaining what this group of people had been doing and still are doing today. Another big think tank group is the Club of Rome, which is one of the eugenics operational arms of the major transnational think tank organizations. This is the group that sets agendas when it comes to human population and population growth. This is the group that, when I was involved in Satanism, they continuously mentioned in association with me, because they knew at the time I was a black-hearted satanic eugenicist, and I really wanted the population reduced because I believed that the problem with humanity was out of control rates of human reproduction. In my arrogant ignorance in my past as a Satanist, and did not understand it was all about bad programming. And this is a group people have to look into in a very, very, very deep scholarly way to understand how they're directing the eugenics part of the agenda. The CIA invents new ideologies and religions where it is required. They're very much involved in the propaganda aspect, the element of psyops, psychological warfare, propagation. They're very much involved in the area of counterintelligence operations, or COINTELPRO, where they are countering truthful information with complete disinformation. The CIA was the biggest instrumental group in creating the Flat Earth religion and the Q psyop as well, the QAnon psyop. International communism is still very alive and well. You know, the Marxist First and Second International branched off into other international communist groups. Communism is international socialism. And they're very much involved in these the propagation of these deceptive worldviews and agendas. The Fabian Society, a socialist think tank that had a crest with a wolf, literally a wolf in sheep's clothing, as their banner, as their herald. That stopped using it because it became so apparent that they're trying to pretend to be innocent sheep when in fact they're ravenous wolves, poisoning people's ideologies. Absolutely look into Fabian socialism. I covered it in 2 masks as well. The Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, the United Nations, the Rockefeller Foundation, all of these other transnational, international think tank organizations very much directly involved in the propaganda of the neo-feminist satanic agenda of epi-eugenics, of getting the human population to cull itself through its completely ignorant belief system. And they're doing a phenomenal job. I look at this with dispassionate non-hatred. I look at this slide. I don't hate the people in this slide. They're members of all these groups. They're just old fart fucking morons saying things to people who are even dumber than them. That's all it really is. It's extremely dumb people repeating their bullshit to people who are even more stupid than they are, and them swallowing it with the proverbial funnel, hose, and whatever's left over, scraping it up with a fucking spoon and jamming it down the gullet. And that's what most people out there are. Then you want to even do something worse. You want to point fingers and say they're doing something, but don't point fingers at humanity. Don't point fingers at yourself. That's your problem. That's the problem of the freedom movement, is you think it's all externalization. No, it is not. They've gotten people to latch on to worldviews that they don't want to give up. That's the problem. And you have to change inwardly and stop believing the things that you believe by understanding that this is an agenda that is rapidly spreading worldwide and directed from these transnational entities. But most of you won't. You'll continue to just point fingers outside of yourself. You'll continuously say, it's up to God. It's not up to us. We got to vote people in to be our representatives and clean it up and drain the swamp. And it's just fucking moronity. It's just complete fucking moronity. That's the only way I can describe it, is people are abject morons that are never going to learn. They're going to fuck this whole planet up for everybody and all future generations to come after them. Another huge part of who directs the neo-feminism agenda and the gender divide agenda period is world religions. And I mean cultural world religions. From the highest levels of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, even some of the lesser religions, Hinduism, to a lesser extent Buddhism, but it's probably still there. There's light and dark aspects of all religions and mystery traditions. So, this is another element people have to look into. I tell people all the time, the world is not controlled from the centers of power that you believe it's controlled from. The world is controlled not from New York, Tokyo, London, wherever else cities people want to believe are the big power centers. The world is controlled from Rome, Israel, and Mecca. And make no mistake about it, the highest level dark occultists are embedded within world religions. You want to find the source of Luciferian bullshit spirituality and true Satanism, you need to do nothing but penetrate the outer layers of world religions, and you'll understand that dynamic. Folks, that's all the time we have for this edition of What on Earth is Happening. We will be continuing to wrap up the Unholy Feminine Extended over the next 2 and final weeks of this year's show. Thank you for watching. We'll see you right here next week.